Hello everybody and welcome to a brand new Elder Scrolls Online build video with me, Sherman. Now, some of you are probably looking at the title going, what? Sap Tank? How in the heck? Now, the Sap Tank was something that was designed for in-game use by a lot of people, and it was a really, really cool build. I'm not kidding you. Like, probably one of the funnest Nightblade builds I played as a tank. Now, the reason I liked it so much was because it was just that cool of a build. Now, since the time of the Sap Tank basically being neutered and blown up, I have gone and done a lot of work to try and make this build have a comeback. Now, you guys are going to be like, but it's not running Eben. You're right, it's not. There's a reason for that. And that is, for this build to work effectively, it can't run Eben anymore. But it doesn't mean that you can't compensate with something else, and that's what I did. So this is the new Sap Tank. Now, please understand, this is non-meta, and it is it's still an in-game build that you can use, and it still works just as effectively as it did in the past. It's just a different dynamic. Now, this is a non-meta build. This is my own creation, and you can make adjustments to it as needed to make it fit your playstyle. So if you want to switch Eben in there, I'll actually be showing a build later on in the week, one of my final builds, or the final build of the week, which will show you another variation that you can use, but it'll be Eben in it. So I'm just pointing that out for those players. So again, non-meta. It is a dungeon and trial worthy build, but your group has to approve it. That's pretty much what it comes down to. And if you don't get your group to approve it, it can really screw things up, you know, kind of thing. But I'm hoping that some other people will see this and be like, oh, well, if I do these adjustments, I can make it better. And I really do hope so. So let's get right into it. Right out the door, you can see 46 in the health, 18 in the stamina for a reason. We have a 26k magicka with a 29k health and a 20k stamina. Now, our magic recovery is kind of low, 14,064, but don't worry, we can fix that by a margin. But we need that magic recovery. Next up, you're going to see we have a 1,635 weapon damage. It's not huge, it's not massive, but we do have a 32% crit, which is kind of good. We have a 23% spell resistance with a 21% physical, or 21k physical resistance. Now, those resistances are kind of low, but I do want to show you what it looks like when the build is buffed up. I just got to find the right skill. So buffed up, you have 28,000, 26,000 resistances, and you also have this really cool Dwemer pet that comes out and heals your groups and gives stamina back to you. So, moving down the line, we have the Antron Mundus stone. We get minor vitality from Swallow Soul on the back bar only, and we are running Spell Power Cure. This build runs Tri-Stat Food. That's how we can get the stats set up the way we do, is because that. We are a Dark Elf. You can use a lot of other races with this kind of setup, but it's hard to get this kind of combination. It really is. If you try to get more health out of it, like go up to 35 or something, even running Eben, you still need that 20k stamina. There's a reason you need that. And there's a reason you need that 26k magicka. In order for this to work, you have to have these pools at this level. So let's go over the gear. Now, you guys can see right out the door one of the gear sets, and that is the Sentinel Ruck Kazam, whatever. And this set is really, really powerful. A lot of tanks don't use it because it's built for support. And that's what this tank is. It's a support tank. So we use this set to give health and stamina back to our allies anytime that we heal a friendly target. We have a 10% chance to summon that Dwemer, and it heals for 1,185 and restores 524 stamina every second for 5 seconds, every second for 8 seconds within a 5-meter radius. So this is a really good support set, not only for our DPS, but for a tank as well. And it can go off every 15 seconds. So you have an 8-second application time with a 6-second cooldown before it can be reapplied. or a 7-second cooldown before it can be reapplied. That's fine. That's exactly what you need. So moving on down the list, the next set we are running is Fortified Brass. Now this is a 5-piece light, 1 heavy, 1 medium. Now the heavy we're wearing in the chest, the medium is in the legs. Everything else is light. And that's what we get the greater magic recovery from. See, Nightblades out the door get 15% from one of their passives. With that kind of recovery, you only need a couple other things of recovery to compensate, to make up that difference. Wearing light armor, you get a lot of the light armor passives, which gives you greater compensation as well. And then your champion points. So it's just a better setup. Now, when you apply Refreshing Path, it doesn't keep enough uptime of mitigation from spell resistance, like to your spell resistance and physical resistance, as I would like in heavy armor. In heavy armor, it's going to work a lot better. But we have an ability that compensates. So going down here to the bottom bar, we are running Spell Power Cure. Now, you guys are probably going, but that's a healer set. No, it's a support set. So a tank can run it. Now, the great thing about this is it gives you a lot of magicka, it gives you some spell damage, and then when you heal a friendly target, you have at 100% health, you have a 50% chance to increase their weapon and spell damage. This is great for a tank, because they're right up in the fight. So them getting the ability to apply that extra weapon damage and spell damage for their group is really good. Alright, so we are running 3 Spell Power Cure with with a magic recovery, a block cost reduction, and a spell damage. Now, you don't have to put the spell damage if you don't want to. You can put another recovery here, so you can run 2 recovery and 1 block cost, which will boost your recovery rate. And then going down here and looking at this, we are running 2 infused weapons, Spell Power Cure swords, infused, 1 with a hardening enchant and 1 with a crusher enchant. Now, you can choose how you want to set this up. If you want to go 2 hardening, go 2 hardening. If you want to go 2 crusher, go 2 crusher. It's up to you. Now, here, we are running 2 sturdy shields. Now, if you notice, the sturdy shields have a 1720 armor value. With reinforced, they'd have a 2110 or 21 something. I think it's like 2180 or something like that. But, so it's like a 200 and something point difference in, or almost 300 point difference in damage shield strength, or a little over 300 points. So you can either choose to get 300 resistances, which isn't going to do much, or you can stick to this. It's up to you. So, but you have to run tri-stats here, 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 and here. You want to run health in these ones to compensate. Now, the reason I chose Dark Elf is they get 9% max magicka, 6% max stamina. So that's how I can keep this pool the way it is, balanced out like that. Now, there's no way I can get more health. Sorry. So moving on to the skills now. Make sure you unlock all your class passives right out the door. Just make sure you get them, because you're going to need them. And then on your weapons, you just need the sword and shield passives, because that's what you're using the most of. And then the same thing with armor. You're mostly using light armor, so make sure you get all the passives filled out. And make sure you get the medium armor passives and the heavy armor passives. Moving down to the crafting, make sure you get your alchemy maxed out. This is really important for the end game. And then make sure you get your provisioning maxed out. These two maxed out. Just these two. Gourmand and Carnosaur. Because or Connoisseur. You need these at the end game. Now, you are running tri-stat food, so it lasts for 2 hours. Alright, so going over the skills. The first ability, and everyone loves this ability, Sap Essence. This is an awesome ability, because it does damage and heals your allies. It also grants you major brutality and major sorcery. So it does boost your weapon damage and your spell damage by a little bit, but it's just a great overall skill for you to use, because it can also draw in aggro. Because if you do, the more damage you do, the more aggro you generate. Because the game does have a damage aggro system. So this is a good way to manage mobs without taunting. You still need to taunt, but you still get that ability to tank and taunt at the same time, and you get that aggro damage, because this thing does, look, 3,700 or 572 damage to all nearby enemies. And then you heal allies for 1,258, plus 20% for each enemy hit. So in dungeons, this is a great ability. In trials, it can be a great ability. Moving on, we have Pierce Armor. Pierce Armor is your taunt and your Major Breach, Major Fracture. Just make sure you keep them applied. So, for that. And this is the ability that's going to help you compensate for that lack of resistances, or uptime of resistances. And that is Dampened Magic. Dampened Magic's a super good ability for this build because it helps you mitigate a good chunk of damage. And I don't know about you guys, but a 10k damage shield or a 13k damage shield's pretty good. So, really good damage shield here, and the strength does grow by 6% for each piece of light armor. That's how we get to the 13,000. Next up, we have Absorb Magic. This is here for the block cost reduction and the amount of damage you can mitigate. Now, you're going to have a lot of healing going on, so don't freak out, because your heals are going to help you mitigate damage as well. Now, you're not going to be mitigating as much as you would, like a healer can do for you, but you can pretty much self-tank and be a self-reliant tank because of it. Next up, we have Efficient Purge. This allows you to remove conditions from your allies and yourself. This is kind of one of those support skills you're running, but you're also running it for the Alliance War passive. Magical Aid. So you can get that resource return. Alright, now, moving on to the next skill, we have Aggressive Warhorn. This is here to boost your group's magicka, stamina, and health by 10%, but it also does grant Major Force. I do want to be clear on that. I'm going to be doing a video covering a lot of these different things, where I see the issues in them and everything later. But Major Force is still good, but it's basically there for burst situations. Otherwise, you can't keep it up like the Major Force consistently. Next up on the back bar, now this is an area I want to point this out. So we do have an Undaunted Taunt that we can load on the back bar if you want to. You can put it where the sword and where the Reverberating Bash is. But when you're playing through dungeons, you don't really need the ranged taunt for most occasions. This just you can compensate with. Otherwise, this is still a great ability. It does 2,889 magic damage and taunts the enemy for 15 seconds. It's also a synergy, which is really good. So, I'm just pointing that out. Next up, we have Heroic Slash. Now, Heroic Slash applies Minor Maim. It has the longest lasting duration of Minor Maim in the game. So, this is a really good ability. Now, it also has the ability to reduce movement speed. It used to have a good time on that, but it's been reduced to 4 seconds. And that's going to really affect the use of Heroic Slash for that purpose of reducing for CC. But it still has the ability to small CC. And it has decent damage. But it also grants you minor heroism for Ultimate Generation. And Ultimate Generation is used for Warhorn purposes. So, next up we have Refreshing Path. Now remember, I told you this build has a lot of healing to help mitigate damage. Refreshing Path is one of them. Now it doesn't do a lot of damage or a lot of healing because you don't have a lot of magicka and you don't have a lot of magic damage. But I do want to show you this. So even if I do this and I need to hit an enemy with that. So I hit the enemy now. Now look at how much more powerful it is. So it just went up enough to give you 1,000 damage and 1,000 in healing. So it really helps out to make sure that you use this out and keep this consistent, keep that spell power cure on you, along with that 20% damage buff or the 20% spell damage that you get from utilizing it. And you want that spell power cure to go off to keep that applied to you, so it does boost this thing's damage and this thing's heal. Next up we have Swallow Soul. Swallow Soul is a great ability for you because it also grants you minor vitality. So when you're on the back bar, you're going to be getting 8% healing received. Now being a tank, you don't get a lot of healing received in light armor. So this is how you're going to compensate for that healing received loss. So you're going to be on the back bar getting your heals, and on the front bar you're going to be doing your tanking. On the next ability we have Mirage. Now, Nightblades are the only ones who can get an effective dodge capability from this ability. And it also grants you minor ward and minor resolve. So it does give you increased resistances by a small amount, and it gives you a 15% chance to dodge for 26 seconds. You need this up all the time. Otherwise, it doesn't work. And then our last but not least ability is Replenishing Barrier. You don't have to use this if you don't want to. In dungeon situations, you can use it effectively. In trials, a lot of trial groups won't want you running it, but you can run it to get that ultimate return and that magic return. It's a good way to just manage resources. So, just pointing that out. Now, let's go take a look at champion points. So, just like with my other tanks, 37 in Ironclad, this gives you 15% reduced damage taken from direct damage. Or, yeah, direct damage. And then 37 in the Thick Skin, reducing your damage taken from damage over time by 15%. And then you have Hardy Elemental Defender, both at 43, reducing pretty much all damage types by 10, which do stack with these Thick-Skinned, the Ironclad, and stuff like that. Next up, we have 4 points in the Light Armor Focus. This is just to boost our physical resistance a little bit more. Normally, I'd put this somewhere else, but I didn't see a point this time. We also have 16 into Expert Defender, which increases our, or reduces our light and heavy attack damage received by 10%. We have 56 in the Bastion, increasing our damage shield strength by 20%. This is something I want to point out to people. So on the front bar, we are running a hardening enchant. Look how much that is, just from running Infuse. That's 5,132. Now look at the Crusher. It's 2,108. Now, if I was wearing Torag's Pact with this in Ebon, just pointing out, if I was running that with this build, this would be 27 something. So it goes up by 600, and this goes up by over 1,000. So Torag's Pact is a good set to run, and it would give me more. It would give you more magic recovery, and you could run Ebon with it, but you would lose that Spell Power Cure, and that Spell Power Cure plays into this build really well. Now you can run Ebon up here on the 5-piece top, and get rid of this, and you're going to compensate for the resistance loss. So you can do that, and you will end up with a greater health pool, but you still have to do the compensation thing in there to get the health, magic, and stamina in the right places. Now you guys will notice that like it's showing me with like a higher health on one bar, less on the other, and that's because a Refreshing Path gives you extra health. So that's that, and we're going to go back in the champion points. So it's really important for damage shields. That's why you want that 56 there. Moving over here, we have 23 into Warlord, and that's to reduce our break free cost by 10%. And we have 16 into Bashing Focus. This reduces our cost to bash by 10%. So it's just another way to manage resources. Moving on, we have 75 in Arcanus. This increases our magic recovery by 14%, and we are running 10% in here, increasing our stamina return from our sword and shield heavy attacks. So we get 10% more back on top of the 25 or the 30%. We're not going to get a whole lot of stamina back. That's why we're running that monster set that gives stamina back to people standing within that 8-meter radius. Moving on over here, we have 56 in the Shadow Ward, giving us reduced block costs by 20%. We are running 17 into Tumbling, reducing our dodge roll cost by 7%, and we have 10 into Befoul, increasing our healing reduction abilities by 10%. Moving on to the next area, we have 43 into Blessed to increase our healing done by 10%. So that's why we have all those heals. I mean, why not amplify them? So that amplifies them, and that gives us really good control in those heals, but it also gives us the ability to take other things. And one of those things is we're going to put 43 into Elemental Expert. This is going to increase our Flame Frost, Shock, and Magic damage done by 10%. We're going to put 23 into Elfborn, increasing critical healing and critical strikes done by 10%. And then we're going to also put 17 into Spell Erosion, increasing our damage with our magic damage against enemies. So, over here we're going to put 35 into Physical Weapon Expert and 56 into Master at Arms. These are going to give us 20% increase in our light and heavy attack damage, because that's where most of our damage comes from with Sword and Shield. That's why we have the 20k stamina, is to increase our damage output. But we can also increase that greater, not just with stamina, but also with these trees. Next up, we have 23 into Shattering Blows. This increases our damage done against enemies with damage shields by 10%. So it just overall helps us do more damage. Now, we do have some really cool passives in here, like Reposit, Butcher, retaliation, but we already get extra damage from a lot of our other abilities. So moving on over here, we have nothing in this tree at all. So everything is done through magic based. And that's why this build works so well, is that you want to boost that up. Now, we don't run a staff, so taking physical and physical weapon expert master arms helps us increase our damage capabilities with those weapons. Taking these points out of here and putting them over here isn't going to make it any better. Really, it doesn't. Because we don't use sword and shield just for air. You use it for the purpose that it's made for. It's made to tank and do damage. So this allows you to kind of build on that. And this allows you to build on the magic apart. Now you guys are probably wondering, why didn't you put anything in Thumb Purge? None of our damage does damage over time, so there's no reason. Alright, so that's it for the champion points. Now would you guys like to see how this thing works? I know you would. So starting off, you're going to start by funneling health, refreshing path, switch bars, sap essence. Taunt, pop your damage shield. Now you've got an 18k damage shield that you can keep up pretty good, or 16k. Or 18, sorry. But you can keep it up, and you can keep up really well because of it. Because you have such a good magic return that you can keep up the damage shield, you can keep up the sap essence, all that kind of stuff. You're just not going to be spamming this, because you don't need to spam it. You need to apply it, and then you need to keep this up, your low slash, you know, that kind of thing. In Mirage, definitely. Now with Mirage going, you can see, like, you reach the cap of resistances. And even if this guy does damage to you, for example, it doesn't matter, because he's not going to do enough damage to you in the open world. But in a dungeon or trial, it's a different story. So having that extra healing coming in and mitigation coming in, and those damage shields really help you out with tanking. So that's why it's really important that you focus on these certain things and you keep this refreshing path up. It's to give you that extra resistances and stuff. That's why you want to keep Mirage up. That's why you want to keep refreshing path up. That's why you don't have a lot of time to do this. I mean, you have a lot of time you can do this because you have a 20k stamina, but you can also recast while doing it. So you can have this up and still be blocking. You can be casting this and cast refreshing path. You can have block up and do your siphoning. You can still do that stuff because you have such a high magic recovery that it compensates. And with an 1887 spell damage and a 1600 weapon damage, because of spell power cure, it really helps. So not only do you get the 20% from that when you activate it, which I'll show you, if I can get it to proc. There we go. But now you go up to 2,264 with a almost 2k weapon damage. So this increases your overall damage completely, and it makes all your abilities work better for the amount of time that it lasts, that spell power cure lasts. So consistency, all that kind of stuff. I mean, you're going to have almost 100% uptime of spell power cure, not only just for you but your group. And that, my friends, is the new Sap Tank. So I hope that you guys like this build. I personally, now that I've been working with it, like I like it either way, either with Eben or with this. I like this better because I just love the overall like feel of it. And if I'm running, if I lose out on the amount of magic recovery I get from the heavy or the light armor, I have to compensate. So I actually have to change some things about the build because I'm going to lose that 20% magic recovery. So it kind of throws it off, and you need greater magic recovery. So you actually can only put one spell power thing, and then you have to put 2 recovery on the build. But you can still run the same setup that this runs. But the nice thing about that pet thing, or the the 10% chance to summon that Dwemer Spider is it might not be as good as it seems, right? Because you have all these damage shields, because you have to take damage in order to heal, and to get that heal off kind of thing, to get that Dwemer Spider to pop, you guys just saw, like it will pop a lot. And that's going to give you stamina recovery, and it's going to give you another heal. So that stamina recovery is going to help you manage your resources while you're blocking and casting all those other abilities. And you can still use potions to return resources. Now, the potions I suggest you use is a spell power pot. Now, you're going to say, why is spell power pot? It's to increase your critical output of magic damage. And it does increase your magic recovery. So you want to use that spell power pot. Yes, it increases your spell damage, just like the other thing does, but this is consistent. This lasts longer. It lasts 45 seconds. So this will stay up for 45 seconds. So does the spell power, the spell damage, and the magic recovery. So you want to make sure that you have that potion going for that purpose. Now I'm going to let this go ahead and wear off, and then I'll recast everything. Or I'll reuse it, and I'll kill this mammoth just so I can show you guys like how well this works. In fact, we can just do it over here. Do-do-do. And I can stand here and you can see it's giving me resources back for my blocking, which does allow me for a little bit better resource management while blocking. So it's a really good set, that monster set is, for resource management. Now, does it work as good as, say, using a potion or using a spear shard? No, but it compensates for what you're lacking in recovery while you're blocking, because you have no way of getting resources back. But that's the new Sap tank. If you guys want to play it, you can. You guys can change it to anything you want. But I think it works out really well, especially running that spell power cure and that in Eben and that Sentinel set. It turns out really good, and I'll be proving that at the end of the week with the final build I release. So there it is, guys. The new support off tank, the Sap tank. I hope you guys like it. So if you guys like this video, go ahead and hit that like button. If you guys want to see more build videos by me, you can hit that subscribe button. Or if you just want to see more videos by me, again, subscribe button. Other than that, thanks for watching. Until next time, have a wonderful day, and this guy might see you in game. Bye.